Screen time salutations to all of you in the internet land, and welcome to this episode of Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick, and I'm joined as always by Keelan. How's it going, man?
Very well, very well. How about yourself? How are you feeling this Sunday afternoon?
It's a good Sunday. I can't complain. The weather is mild. Yeah, it's been a pretty good day, man. How about yourself?
You know, I can't speak so much for the weather outside, but the weather inside is amazing.
Nice.
Actually, I had a much later start than usual. I just realized that when you asked that question, but overall, very pleasant, and looking forward to having a much more pleasant afternoon and evening.
Nice. Yeah, that's always good. Well, happy Sunday to everybody listening, or whichever day you are listening to this. We very much appreciate it. Thank you very much. In this episode, we're going to be covering the 4th episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is number 4, right?
This is number 4. This is
okay. I was just making sure. Yeah. Yeah. And so let's just jump right into it. I think I will say just for myself right off the top, this is definitely a darker episode.
Oh, yeah.
Which I found pretty interesting and kind of refreshing. I do have some gripes about the way they're handling the material, but that's just minor stuff that it doesn't really matter because I'm just a person. So
it matters to us.
There we go. Hey, why not? Keelan, what did you think? What are your first impressions right off the bat?
Well, my first impressions, Wakanda.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
That was awesome. That was just like, yes. And they continued to play the I think that was the Warrior Falls drop, the I'm probably not doing that well. But either way, sidebar, when Black Panther came out, I fell in love with the score of the movie and the soundtrack. So just all of the sounds of that movie are just ingrained into my brain. So back to this show. So that was my first impression, just seeing that originally. That was great for me. I think that was pretty much great for all fans, just because there's a big question for all of us as to where the Black Panther series and everything is going to go, how they're going to incorporate some of those characters into other things.
Yeah.
So that in itself took a lot of the stage from the beginning of the episode. But if I were to sum the entire episode up, 3 words: wow, wow, whoa.
That's pretty accurate, I would say. I think there's a lot of pretty interesting wow moments, and definitely the end moment is kind of a whoa moment for sure. I do want to say I really like the opening scene with Bucky being deprogrammed by what's her name? I can't forget.
I've discovered now that so we already just knew that was not Okoye. We knew that of course, but we were trying to figure out who she was. She is the second in charge, so she is Okoye's lieutenant commander, her second. Yeah. And her name is Ayo or Ayo.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I do remember Bucky saying that. Okay.
And she so what I didn't realize at first was she's actually technically she would be the chief strategist, even though Okoye would be considered the general. She's the chief strategist. She's the one. She was even in charge of protecting the father, not T'Challa, but
T'Chaka.
Yeah, T'Chaka.
Yeah.
She was in charge of protecting him. So her lineage and her, I guess we would say her character or her respect, as far as things are considered, she would probably be in reality Okoye's mentor. It's just Okoye, has a higher position, but it almost would seem as if she would be her mentor.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll probably figure that out. I'm sure they're gonna do a whole series about. I'm sorry, what's the army's name? I always forget. Dormelage. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I'm almost certain they have to kind of at this point, like bringing in those characters and trying to like intertwine them with the rest of the Marvel universe. And it's a no-brainer for them to make a series out of that for sure.
I hope they're having that same discussion you're having in your head in their offices.
Oh, they have to be. I mean, come on. Yeah. Like, because just the opportunities to do different stories and bring and build more characters and all that stuff. I think, yeah, if they're not thinking about that, then they're being pretty short-sighted.
Right. And because I don't think we're going to go step by step per se with this particular episode. For those who have not seen this episode, sorry, but if you've been following us long enough, you know there's going to be some spoilers in here. If you're okay with spoilers, hey, stick around. I'm here to do that for you. So, there was that epic fight scene with the Dora Milaje.
Yes.
And I personally think if there were to be, or when there is a series, I don't think it would be a movie. It would definitely be a series because you'd have to break some things down. I can't think of any other force that's not considered main role in the entire MCU or any superhero lore that I can think of, honestly, that comes close.
Well, especially one that isn't powered.
Agreed. Yes, because they are regular human beings.
Right. And they say, and even John Walker says that after the end of the fight, it's like, they're not even super soldiers. And
end of the fight after they kicked his ass.
Yeah. He got his ass handed to him big time. So, I mean, like, that is interesting because, you don't see a team of just normal human beings necessarily like being able to stand toe to toe with these superhumans. Yeah. So exactly. There's an interesting angle there for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I was honestly, speaking of normal human beings being able to go toe to toe with them, I was impressed with Sam. I was impressed that they've given him such a superior fighting style because he's very tech. He's all tech,
Yeah, he's definitely not a slouch. He seemed to be holding his own better than John Walker was. That's for sure.
For sure, better than John.
Yeah.
Which in itself is I think an entire discussion to have. I think Sam and John, they may not have a history, but they have some type of understanding that there is a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that, and especially like with this episode, like I can see that they're trying to sell John Walker as this like new villain character. I felt like it was, and see, this is the one criticism I have. And it's not really a criticism. It's just more of a commentary about the way they're deciding to tell this story. So most of the time when we have these types of stories, we know what the evil is, and we know the evil is very well defined. Now, what some storytellers tend to do is try to nuance the evil, which is good most of the time because then you get to humanize the characters. You can kind of blur the lines of what's acceptable and not acceptable and make the audience decide like what is good. But the problem is when you have a nuanced sort of villain, there's always a tipping point that pushes that villain into total evilness. And then it's like, that usually that tipping point feels really contrived. So as an example, the when Sam talks to Carly, is it Carly Morgan? Yeah, Carly. Yeah, and he's supposed to have 10 minutes and then John Walker is supposed to go in there. And, like you can see that they're having a good conversation. They're actually relating to each other. There could be actually some peace that comes out of it. But of course, then John becomes impatient because reasons and screws the whole thing up, thrusting not just John, but Carly and John into these villain roles now for really no reason other than he was impatient.
Right. Well, and what I think's most telling about John's character and his continuous interactions with Lamar, Battlestar, there is a very clear unstableness about him.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that's going to make someone else seem like they're doing his job better than him, anything that makes it seem like, his level of power and aptitude isn't enough.
Yeah.
It's gonna challenge him on an ego level. Like everything for him has been on an egotistical level. Do you know who I am? Do you know what we're here for? Do you have any idea what I can do to you? All that kind of stuff has come out of his mouth,
That is true.
When you're finished with these two, have them meet me outside. Who are you, bro?
Yeah. Well, and see, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that being his sort of like modus operandi or the sort of, character of him as a person or as a character. But I think what I mean to say is that when they try to nuance a character, sometimes like they did with John Walker, when we first met him, it was like a very humanizing sort of scene where he's just trying to be the best person that he can be. And then you have this, like, there's some balance to the nuance where it's like, okay, so now that we've humanized him, he's up here. So now we have to create a reason to bring him back down in order for you to think that he's the villain again, which I find usually seems kind of forced. Like John getting up impatient and not waiting an extra 3 minutes seems like a contrivance to me. Like, especially when you have Bucky, who could have easily just grabbed him with his arm and held him to the wall.
Well, like, and because there were so many other things for John that he could have gone off left with, they could have really let that see. I get what you're saying. You're absolutely right. Because Sam could have finished that discussion. We could have literally reached a conclusion of that discussion. Right. It could have been all peachy between Sam and Carly, and we would know for sure if Carly knows now that Sam is not trying to set her up in any way. Right. Instead, in both situations, in fact, when they have their discussion, it looks as if not just that first situation where John walks in, because that, again, I think that was a lot of John's ego and just him not being able to accept it. And I agree, they forced that. But then you still have that second situation. So I agree. It's like you had your openings where one way or another we were going to get to that point we got to. Right. You could have actually, and I hear you. They could have 1000%, I agree, allowed Sam and Carly to finish that human discussion. And then when we're in our uniforms as a superhuman revolutionary and high-tech powered, I guess you would call him a vigilante, because I don't think Sam would even appreciate being called a hero. Yeah. You have a different understanding between them. And then I think that also would have lent more towards the storyline of Sam being able to understand and delve into, like, okay, I understand what they're going through. Let me go to my side and see what we can do. And then you have more storyline. You have, I get what you're saying. Yeah. And they cut themselves short. Yeah,
they did. They cut it short because, right, exactly. So you have the situation between Carly and Sam, which humanizes Carly a little bit more and gives nuance to that villain. But then John Walker comes in like a steamroller, and then she's back to being just the villain again. And it's like, okay, so we knew that was going to happen because you have to have a villain in these shows. But what you're trying to do is like have a human and a villain at the same time. And it doesn't necessarily work like that, especially in this very cut and dry situation. And I was really, I'm still kind of confused about what the message is they're trying to send across to us. I don't really know what their message is.
I think I am starting to understand it from this episode. And if I'm being honest, I don't know if I like it.
Interesting.
The message that they're trying, because what they're, okay. No. I do like it. Okay. I'm not sure if they understand how to get it across to everyone. I think a lot of people will understand it, but I don't think everyone will be able to grasp what they're trying to do. I think what they're trying to do, and we touched on this a little bit, I think episode 1, honestly, maybe episode 2, but I know we touched on this a bit already. And we touched on it a little bit in WandaVision as well. The pandemic, quarantine, returning to life as normal, life as what we are used to, returning to whatever that is. Yeah. I think they're trying to involve that, and that's where the force of the human element comes in, and where what I'm seeing right now is this: by trying to assist and put more real world things that are going on right now, that we're trying to turn the world, figure out what's going on in the world. That's where you get the Carly character being humanized, not just the Carly character and the Flag Smashers and all of that. That was going to exist because that's a part of the storyline. But the humanization of Carly, the death of her mentor, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And then again, John was already existing. So if you take out the human element, this is something I literally just thought of. Take out the human part of Carly, right? What do you have? You have a superhuman militant force that's just roaming around doing what they feel is necessary. That's normal comic book stuff. Right. Then you have the hero, anti-hero, who's on the verge of becoming the ultimate villain, and that's John. That's normal comic book stuff. Yeah. you add the human element, and then you think about we're in 2021, we just come out of quarantine, or we're coming out of quarantine, however you want to look at that, possibly going into a new stage of this situation, and here we are. And I think that's what they're really trying to do, is normalize in people's brain that there is a change that has to come, and it's not going to be easy.
Rebuild, reset.
We called it when that episode. That was the episode where we talked about it.
And see, this is kind of like where I'm struggling with trying to understand the because we all know every story has a message, and they don't, we don't create stories without a message.
Right.
And I think that's where I'm trying to reconcile this idea of, because it would seem to me that the message right now is relativism. That Carly is a bad guy, but she's also a good guy. John Walker is a good guy, but he's also a bad guy. Sam is a hero, but he also doesn't want it. You know what I mean? So it's like there's this, like, you're muddying the waters of the mythology with relativism, and then it feels like you don't have any real direction to go. And a lot of people really like that type of storytelling that isn't hand holding or whatever, but I think when you lose something when you're not clearly defining things enough. And I don't know if Carly has clearly been defined as a villain enough, and I don't necessarily think so, aside from killing those people, which is terrible. There also seems to be this, like, but I'm doing it for a good reason, and even Sam thinks it's a good reason. Which I'm having a hard time thinking about, because I'm like, okay, Sam was the person Captain America gave the mantle to,
right?
And he's being a relativist about morality right now, which is completely what Captain America is not. He's not a relativist about morality whatsoever. So I get that they're trying to say, well, of course the world isn't always black and white, and there's mixtures of gray. And I totally agree with that. But I also think that it does a little bit of disservice to the consistency of a story if you're trying to be too relative about the characters' motivations.
Right. And specifically characters that already exist. And that, I think, and just ride with me here or let me know where the exit is, right? I think we just found the downside of representation.
Expand on that. What do you mean?
If everyone has to feel like they can relate to something, which is where relativism,
yeah,
we know I do that a lot, right?
Yeah, so, you said it. Relativism.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So if that is the outcome of representation, because everyone wants to feel included, what does that do to especially pre-existing storylines that you have to interject that into?
Right.
There's your downside to representation. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean for newly written stories that it's going to be it can be as much of a problem, but from the way you broke that down, and I agree with the way you broke that down, that's what I heard, because that is why else would you do that to a storyline other than wanting everyone to feel included?
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right about trying to create a relativistic story within the framework of a very archetypal story, which all of these established Marvel stories are very archetypal. You know that this is going to happen, blah, 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 which, I mean, can get stale in the long run, but they have been around for thousands of years because they have that sort of universality to them. And I think that, if you're adding, I think adding relativism is good to show different perspectives, but if you have too many different perspectives going on at once, the person who's watching doesn't have anything to grab onto and say, okay, this is the right decision. And maybe that's a in the design, maybe they don't want you to know what the right decision is, but
that's exactly kind of what I was thinking. Is that's also the blur between physical representation and social representation, which is where the social representation part is where all of this kind of goes, like, okay, well, who are we talking to with this part of the story?
And
I don't think for those out there who are listening and watching, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think either of us are saying that it's a bad thing. It's just one of those things that you notice, and it's like, okay, how did we get here, and how do we utilize the information we're getting now to better things in the future, because the seams shouldn't be poking out. We should be able to just see the flat surface. We shouldn't be able to see anything else.
Yeah, when it's handled with care, it becomes an incredible storytelling device. And I think that that's where we're kind of getting to this idea is like, please give us nuance, but do it with care. And I think that they're attempting to do that, but it's within, like you said, it's within that rubric of very like Disney-esque good, bad, evil, villain. Like, so now that you're trying to blur these lines of like who the hero is, it feels like I don't know. There feels like there's a little bit something missing. I'm not saying I dislike it, because I think that this episode's been one of the best ones. I think probably the best one in my opinion.
They have been getting better with every episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm almost afraid to ask what episodes 5 and 6 are going to be like, because this was crazy.
Seems like they're going to be pretty darn good in my estimation. Because I mean, as I said, I like the nuance characters. I like that, you know, Carly isn't necessarily a bad guy, but they also seem to not know which direction they want to go in with her. Yep. You know, like it feels like, okay, because this is the way I felt watching this episode. I'm like, I sympathize with where she's coming from. I get what she's coming from. But then she also said, I'll kill those people all over again if I have to. Then it's like, okay, so which message are you trying to tell us? Mm-hmm. You know, like, and I think that that's probably purposely designed to kind of make it a little bit ambiguous, but in the end it doesn't give you that like definitiveness. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think that is kind of the point. And that I think is the best place to go, right? The best segue to that scene right now. So the discussion that she and Sam had, I think what that did, of course, that gave us her human side, right? That gave us more of Sam's human side.
Yeah.
But it did something else for me as well. And it was less about the character and more about the actor. Anthony Mackie. Dude. Can this dude just like be in everything?
Yeah, like, he does great.
I'm serious. Like you think of a guy who he is Falcon. We've seen him play a million other roles. I mean, I forget the character. He was Papa Doc in
Papa Doc. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then he also was Martin Luther King. Now, this is me, and I don't know if anybody else agrees with this, but that moment with he and Carly, I feel like he tapped into whatever he had to tap into to play Martin Luther King.
Yeah, he was being
convincing, influential, big mentor type. The heart came out, right?
Yeah, the empathy.
Thank you, the empathy.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Very empathetic. And I think the crazy thing, and back to the actual character now, but just how much that scene stood out, because I think that's where you were able to really not just look at him, or excuse me, look at Falcon, look at Carly, look at everything around it and say, oh, wow, they stepped it up. Like,
yeah.
He and Sebastian Stan have amazing chemistry on screen, right? But I think this was the first episode that you saw both of them have amazing chemistry with other people.
Yeah.
Consistent, like through the entire episode. And I forgot what your original question was, but that's what it made me go to.
Oh, no worries. I mean, I think you made some good points. I think I would say that adding Zemo to the team has really helped the story, to be honest, because he's like the foil. He's the thing that Sam and Bucky can both kind of hate together in order to make their bond a little bit stronger. And, you know, in a lot of respects, I thought about this episode and I'm like, you know, I'm kind of on Team Zemo. I'm kind of on Team Zemo in the sense where he says nobody should be allowed to be a super soldier.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah. No, yeah.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, like, you see what's happening. You see what happens when you know, people get their hands on this stuff, and they fall into that oppressor role. And, you know, like even Zemo says, like, nobody else was Steve Rogers. Like, there hasn't been another Steve Rogers, you know, somebody who didn't abuse it.
Wow. But let's discuss that in depth, right? Now, and of course, we're jumping around. There's plenty of things we have to get back to, like the Dora Milaje. There's more to discuss with them. But to Zemo, excuse me. I've been calling him Zemo for jokes, but for Zemo and his understanding of the science behind the serum and what it does to you, I appreciate how knowledgeable he is. Right. I disliked when they somehow tried to discount Steve Rogers as not being as much of a supremacist as every other person who's ever taken the serum. The difference is you agree with what he was trying to bring to the supreme standard. Justice, righteousness, peace. We all agree with those things. That doesn't make him any less of a supremacist to the people who don't agree with it. Like,
well, but then who are you if you disagree with freedom and justice?
You're the person that he's fighting.
Right. Who tend to be not very good people. I mean, I agree with you. I understand there is a little bit, and this is where the relativism comes back. So we're not only are we trying to add nuance, we're also saying, oh, well, Steve Rogers was also a supremacist. Well, that's fine, but the last 12 movies haven't shown him that way.
Right.
And so you can't retroactively create a narrative without having established that in the beginning, I think.
Right. And I totally get that they couldn't do that if they wanted to. Yeah. But it was just me sitting thinking, okay, so we're thinking about what a supremacist is. This is someone who obsesses over what they feel is supreme. Well, right. Damn, Steve Rogers did the same thing. We just liked it. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It doesn't make it wrong. It was just a realization I had. And I was like, nah, that has to be said, because that is a realization. But I totally agree to the effect of what Zemo was saying and what everyone else was saying, because I don't think Zemo was going to say except Steve Rogers until he kind of realized, like, maybe I should throw that out there, because Steve didn't exactly go around killing people and trying to dominate and take over the world. And that's the thing. So then you get to even and that's why the Zemo discussion with that, and then you have that small discussion that Lamar and John have about it,
right?
And that there was just this disconnection where Lamar is the rational person, right? But with no hesitation, hell yeah, I'd take the serum. But then when Sam was asked by Zemo with no hesitation, hell no, I wouldn't take the serum. And it's
that's supposed to illustrate who is worthy of the mantle.
Exactly. And then you heard Lamar's understanding and John's understanding of, just, whoever you are, whatever you are, just makes more of you, right? Like, so you have Carly and then you have Steve Rogers, and it's like, this isn't drugs and alcohol, guy.
Well, and it seems that Steve Rogers was the exception to the rule.
Right. Universally, it seems like he was the exception, correct?
Yeah, it seems like almost everybody who gets this serum is used as a weapon or uses it for an evil purpose. Bucky's done it too, So
and I thought that was the whole concept, was not necessarily whether or not they were controlled, but that they all inherently make decisions to start doing bad, things that would be considered bad, with the exceptions of Steve Rogers and maybe Isaiah.
Yes, we don't know enough about his story, but I would assume that he wasn't trying to control the world at all.
Right. And so with Zemo and his knowledge of it, I also appreciated the scene where he comes into just for sake of telling us the what's going on. So there's the scene where Zemo sees the serum and he's like, "Is that what I think it is?"
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm thinking, oh man, it's Zemo. He's definitely going to take this because he wants to synthesize it and recreate. Like, he's been saying all of this stuff that he doesn't like it. And he's destroying him. Oh, he's serious.
He's a man of his word. He said he didn't want it.
1,000%. And
he could have taken it for himself if he wanted to.
He could have done anything. He could have put slid to him, got some henchmen, hired them. Boom, there you go. He could have done anything. Instead, he was destroying them. And that said to me, maybe I need to go relook at the Helmut Zemo, his motive.
Yeah. His motive. His motive the whole time was anti that serum, because obviously he was from Sokovia, and then Sokovia was destroyed because of the Avengers. He was just against, he was against the super soldier serum and, that whole concept. So hats off to him for having some standards,
Right.
And yeah, but of course, I knew as soon as he destroyed them, like, oh, but there's going to be one vial left. There's always going to, that there's going to be one vial left. And
I
of
didn't
course,
think it
who
was going to be on
finds
the
it?
floor.
And I think Zemo is dead after taking the shield in the head like that. Do you see how John threw that shield at him? Like, holy, he threw it into a wall a couple scenes later, and then he threw it at Zemo's head, and Zemo didn't die.
Well, because before he threw it at Zemo, he hadn't had the serum yet.
Right, yeah.
So when he throws it into the wall, I think that's just our nod that, okay, he's officially taken the serum. So all of that rage and anger that he already had, oh, yeah, that's going to be boosted 1,200-fold.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it certainly was. It certainly was. Yeah.
I think he's going to turn into, sorry.
Oh, no. Who do you think the power broker is? Because I think we're going to see them by the end of this.
Man, I do not know who the power broker is. I actually have no clue. Like, I haven't. Oh, actually,
I think it's Sharon. Or is it Sharon?
That was one of my thoughts. Actually, I just realized I did have that thought that Sharon could be the power broker.
Mm-hmm.
Or we know Sharon works for the power broker, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I started thinking, who else has Sharon worked for in the past?
CIA? I don't know.
All types of military, American, right?
Intelligence, yeah.
It could be literally anyone who's ever sat on top of anything in the military or in the government, and also had something to do with the underworld and all the super stuff.
Is Claw dead?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know.
Claw.
Could be Claw. I didn't even think that. I didn't even think into whom the power broker could be. I was really trying to figure out like everything around the power broker, because I thought it would be too hard to figure out who the actual power broker is right now. I don't think we have enough information.
No, we definitely don't.
Also, something I thought about with Sharon and the power broker, though, or not Sharon and the power broker specifically, but Sharon's situation and revolving around her being around a power broker, et cetera, et cetera. Something I considered was this. What if she never was on the run and she's literally working undercover and that she's still just doing her job?
I mean, that's possible too, but there was something that, when she was on the phone and she's in that city, and I always forget the name. Madripoor?
Yep.
Madripoor. There we go. When she's talking to Sam on the phone, she's walking through like a really sketchy area with dudes with guns everywhere, and nobody's messing with her.
Yeah, they know who she is. They know what's up.
Yeah, that's when I thought, like, okay, so she either is the power broker or she works very closely with the power broker for sure. So yeah, I mean, and it would seem to me that maybe she has a vested interest in getting the serum back as well. But
I think Sharon wants the serum.
I think she does too. Yeah, definitely. Although now it's too late. There is no more serum. So I wonder what's going to happen with that.
There is no more serum in theory.
In theory, right? Yeah, they could always be like, serum. "Oh, there was a secret shipment somewhere.
There were 2 droplets over here, and I licked the paper."
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Now look at me.
Yeah.
So from there, I guess we can go back to the Dora Milaje.
Yeah.
So initially they give that speech to Buck or White Wolf, just let them know, hey, we'll be back in 8 hours. Now here's what. And this is why I'm bringing them up to kind of get back into where we kind of began all of this. The guys, Zemo explaining the serum, but then we get back there when John busts in after the very first meeting with Carly.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who's trying to figure out, like, okay, we know the Dora Milaje are like ultimate, like, I'm sure if this word, if you could cross over DC and Marvel, that the Dora Milaje and why did I just forget the name of Bane and Batman were trained under
Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows.
League of Shadows. Thank you. That's what I was trying to think of. I'm pretty sure the Dora Milaje could take out the League of Shadows.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends, I guess, on the mode. I guess there'd be ninjas versus like Spartans, because Dora Milaje may remind me of
Ninja Spartans, though.
Yeah, I mean they could be, yeah. And well, I mean Dora Milaje would have better tech too.
True. They
So
would definitely have better
yeah,
tech.
yeah, and I think that that's what also helps their warriorness because you saw those spears, man. Nothing's breaking
Oh,
those
we know.
spears.
Oh, yeah, that's
Like
vibranium.
yeah, yes, and they got vibranium everything. So
Hmm.
like that's almost like having Iron Man armor.
Like right everywhere.
Yeah,
Your neck,
everywhere.
your
Yeah, yeah,
hands, your
exactly.
what?
Right.
Yeah, you're right. And
Hmm.
I also appreciated how they handled the shield. But
Oh,
those
right.
who,
Yeah.
yeah, for those who don't know why they can handle the shield the way they handle the shield, and I mean every last one of the women in that room could have handled the shield in any way, is because it's vibranium and they know how to control vibranium. It doesn't matter who made it, where it comes from, it's vibranium. You could have a
Yeah.
pebble and they can turn it into the most lethal weapon or a delicacy, your choice.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it is interesting that they were, one of the Dora Milaje was going to take the shield, and
Yeah, and she had to be told,
Io had to tell him no. Yeah.
give it back. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Oh man.
like, cause she really thought she was good. She's like, "Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
mine now, right? Like, I beat
Right.
him. I take his weapon
Yeah.
because and that's what it's the tribal sense of I won this battle. I'm gonna let you live. I'm gonna take your
Yeah.
weapon though."
Yeah, and then they did the 5-point exploding arm technique on Bucky.
Oh, I
And
saw that and I thought I was tripping and I rewound it and
yeah,
I was
she
like,
was like, "Doop, doop, doop,
"Oh, to
doop,
Kill
doop,
Bill there."
doop." Yeah, totally.
I was like,
Yeah.
well, and so I was actually when she hit him with the staff
Mhm.
directly in the like in the where the shoulder blade would be, or
Yeah,
right on the cusp. The first thing I thought was she just deactivated his arm, and
yeah. I
then you
thought she
saw
was
her
gonna
hit him
take his arm.
right,
Yeah,
and you saw her hit him with the 5 point, and the whole thing just demagnetized. I was like, "Oh, she's taking the arm."
yeah. I thought that
Like
that's
that's
where
the
they were going
penalty.
with that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
"That's the penalty for not letting her get Zemo. She's taking the arm." I was, and he looked like she was about to take the arm. Like, don't take
Right,
it.
right.
Don't.
Please don't take it.
So, but so that where I was getting at with bringing them back up and getting to that and the way they came into the room, right? So the way they entered the room, this is me. How did you not know that there was an escape route?
Mm.
They're really good. They're so good at what they do that I am not understanding how they did not have any idea. And I don't want to hear, not from you, of course, but in general, I don't want to hear, oh, they were distracted with the fight. Since when?
It was convenient for the plot.
It was
You
very
know.
convenient for the plot. And Zemo's very
Yeah,
good. Don't get me, I don't want to discount him
yeah.
at all because he is one of my favorite villains, but that's a whole nother conversation. Um,
He seems to be a
or
good
discussion.
escape artist. At least.
He's
But we'll
very
see.
right. He's very I am really bad with names today, and I don't know why. The
It's all
guy who
right.
used
It's Sunday.
to right, the guy who did all the escape artist tricks out of the box, out of the handcuffs,
Houdini.
Houdini, thank you.
Hmm.
Sorry, guys, I'm really having that kind of a day. But he has a very Houdini-esque feel to him,
Hmm.
always has. At the
Yeah.
same time, because he's very clever. Let's call it that. He's clever.
Right.
At
Yeah.
the exact same time, I think we don't know his background as far as military, why he's such
Mm-mm.
a good fighter, why he's so good with weapons, and just having money doesn't explain that.
Right. Yeah.
So we would have to know where he was trained for I think some of the things about Zemo to make a little more sense.
I think he was probably trained by the Romanov school, right? That would be the
Oh,
best tie-in.
well,
Like
yeah,
have the
but that was an
he
all-girls
was
school.
no, there was a boys' school attached to it too, I
Oh,
think.
okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, maybe that would be pretty cool if he was like a part of that same sort of system that Black Widow was a part of.
And they're all from the same European region, apparently.
Right, right. Yeah. But yeah, so pardon me. I guess we talk about the last sort of encounter with Carly, right?
Yeah, so so let's start that encounter with, again, back to the last meeting. So after everything's gone away, the Dora Milaje's left. What I think is very interesting is it starts with Carly calling Sarah, Sam's sister.
Yes. Right.
I love Sarah because I feel like any other family member of any other hero would have crumbled under the pressure of just knowing who you're on the phone with. She told her, Sarah, yeah, hi, I'm Carly Morgenthau. I've seen you on the news. Like, you're not supposed to say that, Sarah.
Yeah, right.
You're not supposed to know who this. And she just was so effortlessly like, that's not our Captain America. That, like, and I appreciate, like, I like that she was able to do that. Like, it was a step beyond humanness into realness. You don't scare everybody. That little superpower stuff, some people got bigger problems in the world, and because that's not on their doorstep, they're not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated that. I didn't like Sam's reaction. I felt like Sam would have reacted way, and if this were a movie Sam, like movie Falcon would have reacted way more hastily. That seemed very tame.
Yeah, it definitely did. And he seemed like he had, still a limitless amount of empathy for Carly after she just threatened his family.
Threatened my family. Yeah. You don't threaten my family and think that we have any thing to discuss after that.
Yeah, I kind of felt that too. And, then she, backpedals when they show up and she's like, I was never going to hurt her. I'm like, well, how does he know that? How does he know that you're not going to? Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, man. Come on. And see, this is what I'm talking about with this weird, like, mixed message signaling. It's like Carly says, oh, I would have never hurt them. Why? You just killed a whole bunch of people and said you would do it again. Why wouldn't you hurt them?
Why wouldn't you? Yeah. What makes my family any different?
Where is your moral compass? Where is it? So you only kill people that are in a position of government? Is that your thing? Like, you're only going to kill government people? Like,
well, that's what she tried to make it seem. But what did Sam bring to her attention? The reality of those people have families and stuff they want to go home to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And yeah. So of course, as soon as they're there, Bucky and Sam, then they get a ping from Sharon saying that John Walker's on the way.
Too timely for my liking.
Of course. You got to ruin it all over again, right?
And again, that was my point a minute ago. It's John again. It's not like I'm not blaming Sharon. The convenient part, I'm blaming Sharon because it's like, well, if you knew he was there, like you happen to find him as right when he was in the building, you had no clue before he got there.
Yeah.
You didn't see him en route.
And
how did you know that they were in the building?
Right. Of course. Well, yeah, exactly. She has access to a satellite because that's a thing. A government satellite that's tracking Captain America, no less.
Well, she's in Madripoor, so
I guess. Right. It is the excuse. But then everything goes south because, Walker shows up, of course. And then...
Can we call him Texas Ranger at this point?
Texas Ranger, yeah.
And he definitely put on his best Walker Texas Ranger impression with this one.
Well, and this kind of felt like Daenerys too, where it's like all of a sudden now this person's the villain because of one thing that happened, and it's like, all right, cool. So now he's the bad guy. Unfortunately, I don't think Hoskins should have died. I think what we now realize is that Hoskins only was around to be killed.
Yep.
So
which I knew that.
That's kind of crappy. I mean, in my estimation, I don't really like characters that only serve to be killed for the other person to have like a emotional experience.
Right. So I don't know if you remember when they were introduced. I said it was gonna have to be one of the two. Either one was gonna die, and the other one was gonna become the big bad, or one was gonna go to the other side, and now they're gonna become enemy. Like that was the only way that was gonna go.
Right.
And it really sucks that they made the Carly character kill him, in my opinion, because if the character is true to what they are trying to make her say and do, aside from the killing the people in the bomb explosion, that's not her intent.
Right. And then she just killed a non-superpowered person who was unarmed.
And she hit him full strength. It was very clear she hit him.
She could have taken punches from him all day without even breaking a sweat. You know what I mean? So it's like, and this is what I'm talking about. So it's like, when you want to have a nuanced villain, then you have to have this contrived event that makes them the ultimate villain. So it's like now that she killed somebody who was technically innocent,
right?
In I guess she's
an accidental. She's an accidental killer now.
Right, an accidental killer. Yeah, I guess that's worse than being a deliberate killer. Yeah.
I just know what they're trying. I feel what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
With those last two, let's call it that. Those last two murders, with the last two murders of this episode, I think what they were trying to do is make like somehow align the two situations. No,
Right. Yeah, no, they're
two
not
different levels
the
of wrong.
same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
but two different levels of wrong.
For sure.
But yeah. So, but I would you like to?
Well, and then
close that part out.
Yes, with the death of Hoskins, which happens right in front of Walker. And you know what, I gotta say one thing. I don't know why he had to go to Hoskins' body. If I was him, I would have just eliminated all of them.
It would have been rap. Yeah,
right
I didn't
there.
understand. I didn't understand two things. I didn't understand one, if you're all superhuman, yeah, all of a sudden he's more superhuman than he was yesterday. You guys may not understand why. This audience knows why. But what would make you all of a sudden this person that you thought was human until he came in here breaking things in half and bending poles? Why would you all of a sudden not? If you also were superpowered, which they were, excuse me, the henchmen. Why would you just all of a sudden stop fighting and start running? Oh, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. That's normal gang member versus superpower guy type business. This isn't Luke Cage.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like like when you saw him hit the pillar, you knew that he was dead.
Yeah, you knew it
was he slumped real fast. And then, like if I was Walker, I would have just wrangled both of those. That's it. Yep.
Coming straight for Carly.
Yep.
Look at the camera. Figure out what to do with your season.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like I didn't necessarily blame Walker for that because Hoskins was his best friend, and like he didn't deserve to die.
No,
like he wasn't doing anything wrong, and so Hoskins runs down Carly's henchman, right hand man, and brutally murders him. John does. Sorry, John runs after Carly's right hand man. Who earlier in the episode said that Captain America was his hero back when he was a kid. He gets brutally murdered in the public square by Captain America. That's
some irony I did not expect that. And then that's when I thought the same thing. I was like, isn't that the same guy oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that was a dark scene, man. That was a dark scene.
As dark as that was, I think the darkest thing that happened or the darkest moment to come of that wasn't just, he killed the guy. He decapitated him with the shield. The shield is bloody.
Yeah.
His hands have blood over them. He's twitching. And the exit scene is a angle up scene from the knee area of the shield, the blood on the shield. Him twitching and staring like a maniac into the crowd.
That was definitely a comic panel.
Yes.
That was definitely a comic panel. You can tell. I was like, that's a comic panel for sure.
And it was a perfect shot. That was an amazing. That was, to me, that's the moment that leads me to the question I'm going to get to, but go ahead and make the statement you were going to make.
Oh, no. I just think that was a very powerful moment and very dark, very dark. Yeah.
Right.
What were you going to say?
So I think we discussed this as well because we've been talking about the serum quite a bit. I like comic books. What can I say? And I have had this thing for a while now, like years, where I'm always interested when the super soldier serum comes up because once I learned how many different super soldier or serum type mutants there are in the world, I started trying to figure out, well, why does everybody turn out differently? And then you find out it has something to do with their genetic makeup. And then a lot of them also the type of radiation that's used when they come into contact with the serum itself. So when it comes to John, I'm sure just drank it himself. It wasn't procedurally done in any way. So he hasn't per se come into contact with any level of radiation as of yet. The last person I can think of that had that happen to them where they were injected with the serum, but there was no radioactive or radiation level catalyst and what it is apparently the radiation helps with the fallout of whatever the serum does to you. Like even though radiation causes fallout, it's a science thing, right? But this is just how it's been explained. So my point is this. The last person I heard of or know of that got the serum with no radiation initially was the Abomination. and I can't remember what his real name was, but the soldier who became the Abomination. And he didn't become the Abomination until coming into contact with Bruce Banner's blood, I believe it was, or coming into contact with Bruce Banner while they were in a rage-fueled fight. So it was the radiation from Bruce that turned him into the Abomination.
Right.
I'm curious to know with John, we know he's taking the serum now. We already knew he was a maniac. He was already doing crazy things. He was pretty much doing all the same stuff he's doing now without the power.
Yes.
Do we think, or do you think he would come into contact with any kind of radiation in this series? It becomes something else. And if so, what? Or do you think that the serum itself will just turn him into like some type of kind of like the Blob, where the guy became so much the power that the guy was trying to obtain was too much for his body to attain, and thus it broke down his chemical structure?
I don't know. I mean, I would think that if it's the same serum Carly took, then probably not. I don't think that she needed any sort of radiation. There was a kind of like a close parallel. I was thinking about, do you remember Jessica Jones season 2 Nuke?
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of that, but I guess they didn't decide to go with that route. But John Walker kind of reminded me of that, where it's like Nuke really wanted to be that top soldier. So he kept taking that medicine that was like really addictive and terrible for you, but it heightened your senses and made you like, right. And so I could see where it's like, it would be interesting. I don't think that they're going to go this route, but it would be interesting if the dose that he took had some sort of, expiration date, and then he was trying to find more. But this isn't, I don't really think they're going to go that direction. I think it's just going to be very clear cut. Now he is a super soldier, and he just murdered somebody in front of a whole bunch of people. And either he's going to get reprimanded for that, or he's going to go on the lam, and then they're going to have to fight him, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be reprimanded in any way. I think they're going to, because the government didn't sanction him taking the serum either.
Yeah, but he just murdered somebody in front of a whole bunch of people taking video.
And
Captain
so
America
all in the same day, right? All in the same day, he takes the serum and does that. So I'm thinking it ain't going to be no regular reprimand. It's either the military is going to come after him,
maybe,
or they're simply gonna, just let him go like it's a regular job type situation, which would be stupid. But hey, this is TV.
Yeah, I would say maybe the military does try to come after him at some point.
That's what I'm thinking. I think it would make sense. Into like, again, he becomes the human Hulk kind of a guy. Like, you're on the run because you have something that they want. Because now he's the ultimate weapon.
Yeah, or the military just doesn't care, And
you know what? This is a different world. This is post-Blink.
Yeah.
This is after the Blink. So it's a high probability that they will not care that you kill. And also, think of the guy he killed. I just thought about that. They considered him a terrorist.
A terrorist. Yeah. So they could do the PR spin thing where it's like, he has to go on 60 Minutes or something and explain like, oh, I was fearing for my life. They just killed my partner, and he had a bomb on him, so I had to kill him right away. Yeah. I mean, so they could definitely do that PR spin thing, which would be an interesting commentary about how, people get away with doing terrible things. But I mean, we'll I guess we'll have to see until the next episode, right? What's going to happen? Yeah.
I would love for them to take that direct. And again, that's so far my favorite thing about this entire series is they are touching on some really real things. At the same time, we touched on through this episode a little bit of how that can also hurt the material a little.
Yeah, I mean, everything has a give and pull for sure. So
for sure. And so before John took the serum, I want to just ask one more question about John. And this was, in my opinion, even though I don't think it was a heavy John episode, it was a heavy John impacted episode. Do you think John should have split the serum between him and Lamar? Like, hey, you take half, I take half?
I mean, I would say that if it worked that way, then yes, but I likely think that it's probably one of those things you have to take the full dose in order for anything to happen. Yeah. Now, I mean, like if he had found 2 vials, he would have definitely given given him one.
Yeah, and I know
sure.
Lamar made it very clear he had no hesitation.
Right,
And
right.
Last question, not about them, but about you. And I don't think we've asked this question, but because it was asked at least twice in this episode, if you had access and someone could give it to you, would you take the super soldier serum?
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? I mean, but then I also know myself, and I wouldn't want to harm, innocent people. So it's true. Like, I do know, like I would never, hurt anybody. Yeah. Yeah. But, of course I would. I mean, if it meant I could run as fast as a car, like think about how easy life in LA would be, right? I never have to drive anymore.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But yeah. What about you? Would you?
Hesitantly, yes.
Right.
And I say hesitantly because I am a much different person at 32 than I was at 22.
Right.
And that's
don't give it to young me.
And that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. It's like, it's more about when I would get it. I would not want young me who's still trying to figure out the world and learn things and making much larger mistakes than 32-year-olds make.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I would want that me to get the serum, but this me at 32, oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, hand it over. Got you covered. Yeah. Need a favor or two? I got you covered. Don't worry about it.
You'll never have to make two trips out to grab the groceries.
That's right. Hey, man, look, you worried about 2 trips to get the groceries. How about this? If I'm a super soldier, I'm going to build my lung capacity. And this is what's going to happen. I'm just going to fill my lungs with all the air I can. And I'm going to vacuum in one gust of.
There you go. Yeah. Blow the dust out of your house. Nice. I like it. We're using it in the most practical way. We're not even trying to think about fighting bad guys now. No. I want my chores to be easier.
Listen, if I go fight a bad guy now, everybody knows I'm a super soldier and I never get a day off. No.
Of course. No. Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, man. Anything else before we wrap up?
It's been a wonderful show. I'm loving it. It is getting better from episode 1 to episode 4. If I had to really be honest, total change of heart.
Yeah.
And honestly, if they stopped right now at episode 4 and just went straight to Loki, do not do that, Disney. Thank you.
Right.
But if that were to happen, I wouldn't be upset. If we ended right there with him holding the shield, how he was, there's not too much to tie in or to tie up because we have an understanding of what's happening.
Yeah,
we have
of course.
Full understanding, right?
Right.
So for me, that's pretty much
Yeah, well, I think we have 2 more episods to watch. So
yes, 2 more hours.
Think we'll be good. And by the way, have you seen the Loki trailer?
I have.
I think we might have to do an episode just talking about that because that looked pretty darn cool. I'm down to do it.
Right, no, it did, and I'm down to do a episode just for the trailer, just because of the stories and the lore that came out about the mustache. Did you hear about the mustache?
Oh, I don't think so. No.
I'm going to say it on this episode. It's not even that crazy, unless I'm wrong, because I did not find an answer on the internet. But there's only really one mustache that I can think of that's in that entire thing, and it is Owen Wilson's.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'm like, is that everybody's hint that Owen's back? Owen's back. Okay.
He's back. Yeah, for sure. Well, okay. Thank you so much, you guys. We very much appreciate you listening on this wonderful day. We hope that it's a great day for you, whichever day you are listening. We very much appreciate all of you. Please consider leaving us a comment, any feedback you might have, anything that you want us to talk about in the future. We are open to suggestions. Absolutely. Please stick around for Wednesday night's episode. We're going to be reviewing Invincible episode 2 and 3, I believe.
Yes, indeed.
And we'll be talking about that on Wednesday night, and then we'll be back next weekend for another Falcon and Winter Soldier. And yeah, so thank you so much, you guys. We very much appreciate it. If you want to check out what Keelan does on his podcast, If Numbers Could Talk, please check that out. It's on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. And he's got a YouTube channel and a Facebook channel, If Numbers Could Talk. Just search that out and it should pop right up for you. I also have a podcast called Exofathom. If you want to check that out, it's on Monday and Friday. I don't know what day it is. Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. Please feel free to check that out as well. If you're just a purist and you want to watch us, we very much appreciate you. Thank you for taking this journey through the Screen Time Continuum with us for Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick.
And I am Keelan. Appreciate you guys.